sexy ghouls, radioactive bears, and the best propeller kill since Titanic. After finishing Fallout, I can confidently say this show rocks, and as a fan who's played all the Fallout games, even 76, I'm excited to see where they take this story, especially after that insane final shot. So in this video, we'll be going over the show's ending, theories for Season 2, and answering the age-old question, is it okay to make out with your cousin?
Messing around with your cousin, it's all well and good for kids, but it's not a sustainable long-term sexual practice, you know?
I'll also be coming out with a separate video on all the show's hidden Easter eggs, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Now smash that like and subscribe button like a filthy rat roach, because here we go.
Okie dokie. Okie dokie. Okie dokie.
Well, you can't have an ending without an ending. The show actually starts with this title card designating the end of the world as we know it. The year is 2077 and washed-up actor Cooper Howard, who might be named after Bethesda president Todd Howard, has been relegated to performing children's birthday parties. This is really interesting considering throughout the season we've seen Coop as this A-list celebrity. What happened to his career? Where is his wife? And what was the fate of his daughter? Answers to these in a bit. It's in October of 2077 we get an event known as the Great War.
In 2077, the storm of World War had come again. In 2 brief hours, most of the planet was reduced to cinders, and from the ashes of nuclear devastation, a new civilization would struggle to arise.
This ended the decade-long conflict between the United States and China, often referred to as the Resource Wars. Cooper mentions he fought as a Marine in this war when the Chinese invaded Anchorage, Alaska in 2066. 6 years later, in an attempt to consolidate power and in desperate need of resources, the US annexes Canada, with some even referring to it as Little America. The result of the Great War was the complete collapse of society. Mass radiation spread across the globe along with the deaths of hundreds of millions. But the show's main plot takes place 219 years later. The world is run by various factions struggling to survive in this dangerous post-apocalyptic hellscape. Season 1 focuses on 3 of these groups: Lucy and the Vault Dwellers, the Ghoul, and the Brotherhood. Lucy McLean is the show's protagonist, having grown up in the safety of Vault 33. Prior to the Great War, a company called Vault-Tec, which Cooper did advertisements for, created over 100 of these vaults across America with the express purpose of preserving the American way of life and repopulating the Earth once it's safe to emerge, something they call Reclamation Day. But what Lucy doesn't know is that the vaults themselves are experiments to determine the perfect conditions for humanity. In the season finale, Coop secretly attaches a listening device to his wife's Pip-Boy. These fun little devices you'll see our Vault Dwellers wear. In this meeting between Vault-Tec and 4 other huge American companies, Robco, Westech, Big MT, and Repcon, it's revealed that they've all conspired to drop the bombs themselves, hide in these vaults so that when they emerge they will have no competition.
Because when we are the only ones left, there will be no one to fight. A true monopoly.
Spearheading this is Coop's wife, Barb, and he can't believe what he's heard. This is no doubt what led to his fallout with his wife. I bet in Season 2 we'll see a flashback where Coop confronts his wife about this plan where he threatens to go public with it. But with tremendous power these companies wield, they could easily paint him as a leftist radical and have him blacklisted in Hollywood, hence why he's relegated to doing children's birthday parties to make ends meet.
Pinko. Yeah. Still took my money.
Remember that he did attend this leftist meeting run by a woman named Miss Williams, who we'll see 200 years later under the name Moldaver, so it wouldn't be difficult to link him to these nefarious insurgents. Before the war, Moldaver was on the verge of creating cold fusion, a source of infinite energy, before her research company was acquired by Vault-Tec. Cold fusion could have put an end to the war, since a world with infinite energy means no more war over oil, uranium, and other sources of fuel. But Vault-Tec shelved the technology because there's no money in peace. Vault-Tec thrives off war, so it's been Moldaver's goal for the past 200 years to get this technology back. But if Moldaver and Cooper were alive back in 2077, how are they alive in 2296, the year the main events of Season 1 unfold? The last time we see Cooper in human form is the day the nukes go off. He survives and becomes what's known as a ghoul, these mutated humans whose overexposure to radiation gives them increased radiation resistance and an increased lifespan. This explains Cooper's longevity, but what about Moldaver? Knowing her background as a scientist and her connections to Vault-Tec, it's possible she survived the initial blasts in 2077 by storing herself in one of these Vault-Tec cryochambers. It's even possible that this technology is her own. Then there's Cooper's daughter, Janie, who was with him the day of the nuclear blasts. In episode 6, a warlord by the name of Sorrel asks what it is that keeps Cooper going and even implies that it's the search for his daughter.
Or maybe you're still looking for her.
You could also interpret this as a search for his wife, but I think the daughter aspect is the more emotional of the two. Did he manage to get her into a vault before the blast hit? There is a Vault-Tec billboard along the road as the two escape on horseback. Or did he make it to Moldaver's and put her in one of those cryo chambers? Cooper actually doesn't know where his family is.
Where's my family?
So something happened between him escaping on horseback with his daughter and the moment he became a ghoul. But what about Cooper's wife? If she knew when the bombs were going to explode, she'd have enough time to get herself into a vault, but this doesn't answer why she wasn't around to save her daughter. In her big speech to the companies, she says the whole reason she's doing what she's doing is for her daughter. So why time the bombings when her daughter could be killed? Did Cooper take his daughter when he wasn't supposed to? It's implied that those in the upper echelon of society knew about these bombs, including the President of the USA.
Negotiations were scheduled to continue today as the White House had no comment about the president's whereabouts.
Barb even goes on to express the importance of her job because it would guarantee their family a spot in the quote-unquote good vaults.
It guarantees us a spot in the vault.
We've got money. We can buy a spot in the vault.
One of the good vaults.
This leads us to Vault 33, one of the good vaults. Unlike other vaults, it's connected to two others, creating a sort of three-vault cluster. However, there's limited interaction between these vaults to maintain safety. Every so often, for the purposes of breeding and trade, physical communication occurs, such as the arranged marriage between Lucy and Monty from Vault 32. The leader of a vault is called the Overseer, with Lucy's dad, Hank McClane, the Overseer of Vault 33 at the beginning of the season. But not all vaults are structured the same way. In the games, there are all sorts of vaults with different structures to their society. Remember, this is all part of Vault-Tec's experiment. One of my favorite examples from the game is Vault 11, where every year the inhabitants had to select a person to sacrifice or else they'd all be killed. The experiment continued on for years until only 5 original inhabitants were left. In the show, we get to visit Vault 4, which originally was a vault inhabited by brilliant scientists who were given full control and no regulation over what experiments they could perform. What could go wrong? In the very first episode, we see how a group of raiders trick their way into Vault 33 by pretending to be the denizens of Vault 32, a vault whose residents actually died 2 years prior. These raiders are led by Moldaver, who kidnap Overseer Hank because he has the code for the cold fusion device. So while Lucy goes off on an adventure to rescue her father, her brother Norm has his own side story that uncovers the mystery of these vaults. He learns that every one of their overseers has come from Vault 31, so he manages to trick his way into this vault and makes a shocking discovery. All of the overseers are Vault-Tec employees that have been cryogenically frozen so that they can lead the future of humanity when the time is right. Here you can see Hank McClane's pod with the date he entered and exited on the side. This was the, pardon the pun, brainchild of Bud Askins, the man in charge of West-Tec operations in Southern California. His training program, aptly titled Bud's Buds, would go on to produce an army of highly trained junior executives that would fill up these containers. At the end of the season, poor Norm is locked inside this vault and basically has two options. He can starve to death or put himself into one of these pods to be awoken at a later date. I know what I would do, but we can't rule out the fact that someone from the outside might be able to break their way in. And I'm curious what the current overseer, Betty, will do once she finds out Vault 31 has been compromised. Fun fact, Stephanie Harper here will become the interim overseer of Vault 32, meaning she is also one of Bud's buds. In episode 1, we see a list of names that used Lucy's wedding dress prior to her, and one of those names is Stephanie Harper. So it's possible the way Stephanie was introduced into Vault 33 was through her marriage with Bert, who met a tragic end to the Raiders in episode 1. Lucy's search for her father puts her in the direct path of Dr. Siggy Wilzig, a scientist member of the Enclave, a paramilitary group that claims to be the direct continuation of the US government. They perform tests on dogs and put puppies that don't make the weight requirement in the incinerator. In Fallout 2 and 3, the Enclave is the main antagonist, and members of it are considered war criminals, which might be part of the reason why Dr. Siggy escapes after he's discovered creating this cold fusion chip, one he injects into his neck. His goal is to bring this chip to Moldaver to, quote,
Change the future.
When he's fatally shot, Lucy cuts off his head, which contains this chip, with the intention of trading it for her father's release, not knowing the terrible secret that he hides. Along the way, she teams up and becomes romantically involved with Maximus, a member of the Brotherhood of Steel, another paramilitary organization dedicated to the preservation of knowledge and technology. They also seek this cold fusion tech for their own benefit. Maximus's parents were killed in the bombing of Shady Sands in 2077. And thus he joined the Brotherhood to, quote,
To hurt the people who hurt me?
His dream is to one day reach the rank of Knight, which would give him the ability to control these giant power armor units. I think it's great writing to have Lucy, a girl who grew up in a world of safety and privilege, to team up with Max, who grew up in a world of pain and suffering. The final episode has all our characters descend upon Moldaver's compound at the former Griffith Observatory. Here Lucy finds her father and the shocking truth about what happened to her mother. As a child, Lucy was always told that her mother died in the Great Plague of 2277, but that was far from the truth. Lucy's mother had found that something was siphoning the vault's water away, meaning civilization might have returned up top. When she told Hank about this, he dismissed it as a ridiculous idea, but this didn't stop her. She found out more and more things that Hank was hiding until eventually she took young Rose and Norm topside and found Shady Sands. Hank, upon discovering this, took his children back and nuked the city. Rose survived this blast but became a ghoul. Not like Cooper's ghoul, who can still function, but rather a fully turned one, making her akin to a zombie. Moldaver has kept the mom around, perhaps so that she could one day see their dreams of cold fusion working. We'll see Moldaver hold her hand exclaiming, "We did it," as the lights turn on the city below. Because cold fusion was proprietary Vault-Tec technology, only Vault-Tec employees have the code, which is why Hank is needed. He'll eventually relinquish this information as the Brotherhood commences their attack on the compound. Lucy is shocked at her father's betrayal. He not only killed their mother, but tens of thousands of people. Yet Hank believes he made the right choice.
I believe, Lucy, I know I made the right choice.
Hank, like Cooper's wife, believes there will only be peace when every other faction is killed and only one remains. Max arrives and frees Hank from his cell, not knowing this was the man responsible for killing his family. As he catches up with Lucy, Hank slips into some power armor and knocks Max out, asking that Lucy come home with him. But Lucy pulls a gun on him, making for her biggest decision of the season. Does she kill her father for what he's done, or does she let him go? Throughout the season, the Ghoul has tried to teach Lucy that living by the golden rule simply won't work in the wasteland. Moreover, he wants to show how a good person can be corrupted to do evil things, just like what happened to him. It's like what the director said to Cooper in episode 3.
They want to see that even a good man as yourself can be driven too far.
I understand that, but that's
sometimes.
not really my...
Lucy ultimately rejects this paradigm, and it's the Ghoul who ends up shooting Hank. He's been waiting 200 years to ask this one question.
Where's my family?
This implies that both his wife and daughter are alive, and something must have happened to separate him from his daughter the day the bombs fell. Now Hank just runs away even though he's at gunpoint, and the Ghoul doesn't shoot him, stating that it's easier to track him than ask where he's off to. And the Ghoul knows Hank is off to his higher-ups, the real people in power, and that's where the Ghoul will find the answer to his question. Lucy will end up joining him on the next part of their journey. With the Brotherhood on their way, she doesn't have much of a choice, and joining the Ghoul may actually provide her answers on what the hell is actually going on in this world. She'll end up leaving the unconscious Max, knowing he'll be safe with the Brotherhood, and promises she'll come back to find him. She'll also shoot her mother on the way out, putting her out of her her misery. When Max wakes up, he'll see an injured Moldaver succumb to her wounds, and she leaves him with a question. What would the Brotherhood do with infinite power? It plants the seed within him that the Brotherhood is not where he belongs. Later, Max will be hailed a hero, taking the credit for killing the enemy's leader, as the Brotherhood chants, "All hail Knight Maximus." Earlier in the episode, Elder Cleric Quintus proposes the two of them start a new Brotherhood, with Quintus as the head and Max as the sword. Together they can build a new home, that thing he's been searching for his whole life. But Max really wants to be with Lucy and told her that he'd come live with her in her vault. I wonder how Max will juggle these two feelings, and whether or not he'll blame Lucy for abandoning him, and whether or not he resents her for what her father did. There are a lot of cool ways Max's story could go next season. Now this final shot is the one everyone will be talking about, and fans of the games will instantly recognize it. Hank passes the skull of a Deathclaw, one of Fallout's most vicious creatures, before the camera pans over to reveal New Vegas, arguably the most beloved game in the Fallout series. That Space Needle type building is the Lucky 38 Casino, and this over here appears to be the top of the Ultra Lux Casino. We have to remember that the events of Fallout New Vegas take place 15 years before the events of the show, so a lot could have changed in that time. In the game, the de facto ruler of New Vegas is Mr. House, the founder and president of Robco Industries, who we actually see conspiring with Vault-Tec in 2077. Spoiler warning for those who haven't played New Vegas, but Mr. House in the year 2281 is a human cyborg whose physical body relies on advanced life support to survive. In the game, the player can decide to either kill or disable him, so his fate during the events of the show is unknown. The introduction of New Vegas means we'll probably see the New California Republic, a more democratic and rule of law driven faction, and also Caesar's Legion, a slaver society modeled after the Roman Empire. One of the things I loved about the season was the world building, and I have no doubt Season 2 will continue to expand on this absolutely fascinating world of Fallout. But what did you think of Season 1? Is this the best video game adaptation of all time, as some people have been saying? I want to hear your thoughts and theories in the comments below. Thanks for watching, be sure to like and subscribe, and for more bad takes you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at ThinkStoryYT. Until next time, remember,
that is the gentleman who showed me his butthole.